Thank you. Father John, the poor Clares, the parish team, and everybody who's come out tonight, thank you so much for this wonderful invitation to come here and to speak to you a little bit about my past, my faith, and the mistakes I've made, lots, and maybe where we are today. And looking back at that 1990 sort of moment, it was an incredible moment for me, an incredible moment for the country, apparently, but ultimately we get blamed, that team, for the Celtic Tiger going wrong. We get blamed for people borrowing too much money because everybody put themselves in debt to come and follow us, and the banks thought they could do that for the next 20 years, but it didn't work out that way. I was very fortunate in my life that I had the family that I had, and here tonight brings back a lot of memories as I was thinking about what to speak to you about. And I just want to tell you about my childhood. My childhood was waiting, and the things I can remember the most before I even went to school was waiting for my father to finish the night shift. I think he stopped for 1 or 2 on the way home every night, but that was then. And we weren't allowed to go to bed and say the rosary till he came in, and we'd all gather around my mother's bed, and my dad would come in. Sometimes he'd have a couple of pints too many, and he'd say the Hail Mary when he should be saying the Our Father, and we'd all get a bit giddy. But that was the start in life that we had, and my mother has been a colossal influence on all of us, my 3 sisters as well. I'm really pleased that I'm here tonight on behalf of her, and I'll explain that in a bit further time. But she was born in 1930, and she's still alive. That's an understatement. She's still living on her own, and she'll have the Times crossword and the Independent crossword done before any of us are out of bed in the morning. She's an inspiration, and I know she's delighted I'm here tonight because she's done all the rosaries for me, so tonight I'm getting it back and I'm paying her back and doing one for her. I suppose I tell you a little bit about the entire background of her family. I think this story sums it up, and I can remember her telling us this story when we gathered around that bed as kids. So when she was 9 years of age, 1939, her family, who were quite well off in the Tipperary farming world, they had a couple of men who would work in the fields, and they had a woman who came in and helped with meals for the men, and that woman was Mags. And in 1939, Mags became pregnant out of wedlock, and it was very funny. I remember exactly the description my mother gave, that Mags was an unfortunate woman. That was a real Irish thing to say in those days. She was an unfortunate woman. And anyway, before long, some people had called at the gate to take Mags away to the county home. And my mother was a young girl at the time, and her own mother, my grandmother, Joanna Condon, was very worried and got in a pony and trap behind the people who were bringing her to the county home, followed them in, had a look around, and took Mags back. So it was an amazing thing to do in 1939. And I suppose where the story gets more interesting is the next day, my mother remembers some noise at the gate, and holding her own mother's hand going to the gate with the canon was there saying, you have to let Mags go to the county home, and my mother wouldn't do that. And the canon said, you'll be read off the altar on Sunday if you don't. She said, I'll be sitting right underneath you, Father, she said to him. A very courageous, faithful woman, but strong-minded. And her husband, my grandfather, well, he did what most men did. He went to Killinall for Mass at 12 o'clock that day. He didn't go to Thurles. He let her off on her own, and my mother sat with my grandmother underneath the pulpit, and the priest never said a bad word. Things worked out grand, but so the end of the story I want to tell you is my mother, at 21 years of age, went for her first job. And it was a primary school teacher in Powelldine, County Tipperary. And lo and behold, who was doing the interview? Only the canon. So my mother put her name down, Oscailga, hoping the canon wouldn't know who she was or remember her. Anyway, she got the job, and the canon came and shook hands with her and said, will you do me a favour? And she said, I will. Will you go home and tell your mother she taught a canon about charity? So that's the background of my family. We were a typical Irish family, country people living in Dublin, and immersed in sport, immersed in the local community. And I think when I look back at all of the breaks that I got to get where I eventually got to, the people who helped me along the way, the heroes in my community. Tom Curran was the man that did the community games. He did everything. He trained baseball, running, hurling, you name it. He had kids out doing all kinds of things, proud to wear the jersey of Parish. And if you could win locally, you'd then get to Santry and you'd compete in Dublin, and all of your parents would come and there'd be a big crowd there. And I think that was the start of the giddiness for me as a young person, that I could do more. We had Tom Cullen from the Gaelic football team, as rebel a man as you ever met in your life. Tom came in on the bus to me. I got sent off in the under-14 semi-final, and they were trying to make sure I wasn't suspended for the final. And Tom said, "Let me do all the talking in here now, you keep your mouth shut." We went into the county board, and Tom started speaking Oscailga. And your man said, "I'm sorry, I'm the other fella isn't here tonight and knows the Irish." And Tom, whatever way he was shouting, your man said, "Okay, I won't ban him for the final." And he let me out. And I said, "God, Tom, wasn't it lucky the other fellow wasn't there?" He said, No, he's a friend of mine. He taught me to do it." So I was, hurling was my other great sport. My father was hurling through and through, a Tipperary man of huge pride in his hurling, even non-Tipperary matches. He brought me all around the country. Again, just to give you some background, do you remember the 3-card trick men that used to be outside stadiums in the old days? I was a young fellow with the sandwiches in the bag, and my father saw them at it, and he just despised them. For some reason, he didn't like them anyway. And he went in and he knocked the table over, took a swing at a couple of them and said, "Run!" And I was about 13 years of age, and we ran. And I went, "Why did you do that, Dad?" He said, "They're taking the money off the poor farmers." So that's the background. There was huge faith there, as I said. My mother's still saying rosaries every day. But as we went and got older and started going to Mass on our own as young teenagers and standing at the back and beginning to sort of see the bright lights of the world, I can remember that. I can remember going to London, and I was 16, turned 17. I was very tall. I'd started to have a pint. And even though I was training for Arsenal, I was living with my auntie and uncle, and Sunday was my day away from the club. And they used to bring me to London Irish Rugby Club, where my uncle was a steward. And there was always a poker drive on a Sunday afternoon. And then, we'd have to get back for evening mass. But the great thing about evening mass was there was a club beside it, and you could drink pints in the club. And it was all like kosher because, the parish priest was in there. And this was my English time of being a Catholic, if you like, and it was different, but it was homely. And some of my best friends, we were all single lads, single girls over there trying to make our way. And the one sort of magnet, the one common spot was the church, because the church had a little bit of a bar and we could do both. Now we found plenty of other bars, but I can remember sort of the families and the community, and still hanging on to something that I'd let go in Ireland. Things started to go well for me then in the football. I can remember, sliding door moments, and I probably want to spend a bit more time on that to talk about the chances of it all happening, what happened to me, and why did it happen, and was it just all a set of coincidences, or is there someone looking after me? My mother, Joanna, She died when I was 7, but I remember 2 things vividly. One, she said, "Don't worry, I'm going to look after you. So whatever you do in your life, I'm going to be looking after you." And secondly, you're never to put shampoo in your hair. So for those of you who think I'm dyeing my hair, I don't dye my hair. But I've never let shampoo anywhere near it. And the genes might be good, I don't know. But I'm convinced my grandmother, Muddy, we used to call her. She had this beautiful hair, silver hair, marvellous silver hair, and she said, "I ruined it all by putting shampoo in it." So there's the influence back there again. But I suppose, when when I look back at what happened then and my career started to take off, I just want to talk to you maybe a couple of sliding door moments. One, I played a colleges final for Drimna Castle, Leinster Colleges final against Ballymun Comprehensive. The Arsenal scout came to watch a player from Ballymun. I had a great game, scored 2 goals, and that poor lad who was being primed and coached to go to Ballymun, I was only playing with the team when there was no hurling match. And I get dragged over to Arsenal, and 2 weeks later they offered me a 3-year contract. So that was the first big sliding door moment. The second big sliding door moment as I was making my way as a footballer was the manager coming to me and saying, "You're nearly ready. We're sending you to Port Vale to play in the 4th Division. You're a lovely lad, we love you, but we want to toughen you up. And you're going up there to play for a great man. And in a month or 6 weeks when you come back, you might be ready to play with Arsenal." And I was thrilled. It was on a Wednesday, and I rang home and I said, "I'm going to be playing for Port Vale on Saturday." And my mother went, "That's great, where's that?" I said, "I don't know." It was actually in Stoke, in the Potteries, but I didn't know. And the way things worked then, there was no internet. I had to wait to get a ticket from the supporters club. They did all the travel for Arsenal. So I waited around all day Wednesday after training, and then eventually I got this printed ticket, and I went home, back to my digs, and I got ready. And Thursday morning on the train, I got the tube into King's Cross, got the train up to Stoke, and John Rudge, the manager of Stoke, was waiting for me, and he said, "You won't guess what's after happening." He said, "One of your players, Paul Mariner, has got injured, and they want you back as cover for the weekend, but you're coming back on Monday." So I had to turn around then and get the late afternoon train home from Stoke, back home to my digs in London, come in the next day, which is the Friday, and would you believe Tony Woodcock got injured on the Friday? So now there was 16 names on the first team squad that went up on the wall, and number 17 in pencil was Quinn. So there was only one sub in those days, not like now. And so I thought, well, isn't that great? At least I got on the sheet, and I'll be off to Port Vale on Monday. And we had to meet at 1:30 on the Saturday. We were playing Liverpool, who were top of the league. Great team that Liverpool had in the 80s. And I'd never been in the first team dressing room before. So with typical awkwardness, I snuck in as quietly as I could, went into the corner as quickly as I could, and probably couldn't wait to get out. I was so nervous, even though I wasn't involved in my mind. Don Howe, the manager, named the team, and he came to number 9 and he said, "I want you all to give a man a clap today. He's done great. We think he's ready for it. Niall Quinn is playing today." And oh my gosh, I was up in Port Vale 2 days earlier, and we're playing Liverpool. And it's the first game ever from English top-flight football shown live to Europe. Liverpool are the kings. We'd lost our last 5 games, and I'm thrown in there. And I go out for the warm-up, and all of our lads are warming up, and I'm going, gosh, there's Kenny Dalglish, there's Ian Rush, God, there's Alan Hansen, Ronnie Whelan. The hairs are going up my arm thinking about it now as I watched, and the coach is shouting to me, "Will you concentrate in the game?" "Oh yes, I will, of course." So of course, for 15 minutes or so in the game, it all went by so quickly, everything was passing me by, I was in awe. I then got a wallop from Steve Nicol, the Liverpool fullback. That woke me up, and 20 minutes in, I laid on a goal for Charlie Nicholas. The crowd erupted. This felt great. Charlie Nicholas was hugging me. I'd barely spoken to these guys. I was now on the same pitch as them. They're all patting me on the back. Graham Ricks, all these great players, Dave O'Leary. Everything was great, and then 10, 15 minutes later maybe, Bruce Grobbelaar did what that Dutch goalkeeper did there on the last video, and he threw one at me as well. So I slid that in to score the second goal. We beat Liverpool, and I kid you not, I had fan mail on about the Thursday. And this black sack came into where I was with the kids' room, and it was by the kit man, Tony Donnelly, who's an Irishman. He said, here's your fan mail. And I went, what? And all the lads were laughing. Because it was live all around the world, I had fan mail. And I rang my mother that night, and I said, after getting fan mail, and she went, "If you don't write back personally to every one of them." So those of you who think that it was all champagne in those days, and you got in the team and you played against Liverpool and you were the hero, I spent most of that week writing to funny names in Norway and Sweden and places. But there was a huge sliding door moment for me. And to think then that very quickly afterwards, Jack Charlton called me into the Irish squad. And by that stage, I'd started to do a little bit more than believe in myself. I started to grow the long hair like all the top footballers had. I bought a 15-year-old Ford Capri. I'd go fast stripes on the side and a furry dice in the front. And I came home for the summer for my first Irish cap. I got the boat home to show off my car to all the neighbours. And I drove out to the airport and I got out of the car and Jack Charlton was there doing a little impromptu press conference. And I kind of nodded at him. It was a great moment for me. I'm with the Irish team. And I nodded him and he just looked at me and he said to the fellow with him, "We haven't picked him, have we?" So I got a fright and thought, there was no internet then. It was all letters. Did I read the letter wrong? But it was his way of putting me back down a bit. And he had to do a lot of that over the early years. But I had another father in the man. I don't mind saying that. And a lot of the players would say the same thing. It saddens me greatly to think of his parting. But he left me with so much wisdom. And as hard and as gruff as you think he might be, the reason everybody loved him was because he had this beautiful, soft centre. He was a man who you'd listen to, who you'd take note. He'd make you laugh. If you weren't doing what he told you, you were gone. There was no other way of looking at it. It was his way or the highway. But when you were with him, when you were in his circle, boy, did he look after you. Did he want you to do well? And I was struggling along at Arsenal, and I got this phone call off him. He said, "Do you live in Enfield?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you live on your own?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to come and spend the night with you." And I went, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, I have to speak to you about a couple of things." He said, "I'm doing a dinner in Enfield and I knew you lived near there, so I'm going to combine the two. I'm going to do the after dinner speak and I'm going to come and stay with you." It was only about 10 years later I found out he got paid to stay in a hotel. and he came to me telling me he was giving me a big speech. He got there about 11 o'clock at night. He just said, "It's too late, I'll talk to you in the morning." And I dropped him to Heathrow the next morning. He never said anything to me, but he was a character that we got so much from. And we had a reunion recently, the 1990 team, and we spoke about times gone by, and we spoke about Jack and how important he was to us, and how he didn't just pick a lad to play football. He picked a lad to join in with another group of lads. We had a common theme, a common bond. And though he was an English World Cup winner, he was able to transcend what was happening between England and Ireland at that time, the troubles in the north and all the atrocities that were happening. He was able to cut through that with his decency. And when I think about the people who have influenced me the most, my mother I spoke to you about, my grandmother, my father, Jack Charlton, other people later on, Howard Kendall at Manchester City, Peter Reid, he's an awful man for swearing, I might add, but all of them had decency. They had decency coming out their bones. And I think the greatest, tribute I can give to those people is that, the faith that I have and Catholicism that I have, I mightn't have been the best Catholic, I mightn't have gone to Mass as much as I should have, but nobody will ever stop me being a Catholic, or I'll fight them. And that's the determination you get as maybe as a pro sportsman. But when it comes to working out faith and working out why all this happened to me, it happened to me because I met decent people. I met the most decent people of all, hugely spirited, gifted, but as was spoken about earlier, using those talents and using those gifts, not just to pick a team, but to instill a belief in that team that this was something better than anything you could do. This was more important than going 70% of the way and having a half-decent career. This was faith in a different light. This was a man telling us here in Ireland that we could go and beat England, and we did. So I'll finish up now and just say to you that I hope I've given you some form of essence of my Catholicism. I told you earlier that the timing was right. It's right now because my mother, as I said to you, she's coming up 95. She'd already said 2 rosaries today for me. So we got beaten 2-1. But we might say a few prayers after Mass in extra time, maybe, I don't know. But this is the first time I'm actually going to ring her and say, I said one for you tonight, ma'am. So thank you for having me. Thank you.
Back this down again a bit. So thanks very much, Niall. Thanks, David, too, for inviting Niall to come to speak to us at our Novena tonight. It's lovely to hear sort of the inside story of Niall's early years and his career and the people who inspired him, and also those little times when maybe God was at work and helping him along that career as well. So lovely to hear you, and be assured of our prayers and your mam's prayer, and prayers for your mam as well. Hope she's watching on the webcam. So please stand, everyone, now, as we will have our prayers of the faithful.